All right, good morning. This is CISS216, Introduction to Web Development. I'm Mike Zellers. Um, so make sure you're in the right place. I'm going to spend a little bit of time just talking about how this course is structured. Then we'll spend some time on the actual material for the course. This class is known as a high flex class. That sounds cool. What does that mean? It means that you can participate in the lectures one of three ways. And you don't have to decide in advance. You can change at any time. And the three ways are: you can show up to class here Monday, 9 a.m. in this room, as the people here in the room with me have done. All right, that's the first way that you can participate in the lectures. The second way you can participate in the lectures is you can log on to WebEx on my WebEx page, and the link to that is in the syllabus. And you can watch the meetings live while they happen. All right. And the third way is you can, after the fact, watch the lectures on YouTube. So you have the three choices of how to watch any lecture: in person, at the same time, synchronously through WebEx, or asynchronously at a different time through YouTube. And it doesn't matter which one you pick. I don't really, I don't care one way or another which one you pick, as long as you view the lectures and study the material. Now, there's advantages to all of them. Some people feel more comfortable in person, all right? And that certainly is fine with me. I enjoy students in an in-person class. I enjoy working with them, helping them with their issues, and so on. So that's great. If you're one of those students, then you're welcome to show up every week. Some students, for whatever reason, because of circumstances, might not be able to come into class. For example, let's say your car broke down this morning. You went to start your car and it didn't start. Well, you don't have to miss the lecture. You can hop on WebEx and view the lecture live while it's happening. All right. And the advantage of that is, even though you're not there in person, so you don't get that in-person feel, the advantage of that is you can ask questions live. All right. So if I say something and you don't quite understand it, you can ask me to repeat it, or you can ask me to clarify it. So you just sort of raise your hand or get my attention over in WebEx, and I'll do my best to answer the question that you have. So it's kind of like being here, except you're at some other place. You're remote, but it's live, so you can ask questions live. Yes.
I never used WebEx. Do I have to make an account, or do we have like an account already?
Real good question. I believe you have to make an account. Yeah, it should be pretty easy to install and to make an account. All right, but yeah, give it a shot. I don't think you have an account made. I don't think they make them for students. And the third method of watching on YouTube. Well, let's say your job changes. You'd like to be here in person, but your job changes, or you work a shift that doesn't allow you to come to class here. Well, then you can watch it on YouTube later on. That's the ultimate convenience, because you can watch it any time of the day. All right. It does have the disadvantage, so if you have questions, though, you have to take the time to email them, and it might take me a little while to answer the email. By a little while, I mean a day or so. I mean, I'm not on the computer 24 hours. Waiting for emails. I am on the computer 24 hours, but I'm not waiting for emails the whole time. But anyhow, that's I digress. But that offers the advantage of convenience. So you can watch it anytime, with your schedule. You can watch it anytime, and it can match your schedule. So when you signed up for this class, you had to pick which one you wanted. There were two choices. I don't know if you remember that or not. But it doesn't matter which choice you picked. You ended up in this class. So everyone, regardless of the class that you picked, are going to be in this class in Canvas. And you can choose every week which way that you watch the lectures. Like I said, next week, if you know you have a job interview or a doctor's appointment and you can't come here in person, you can watch it on YouTube later on. Or if your car doesn't start, you can watch it, whatever. You get the idea. If you have any questions at all, let me know. It's built for your convenience. You know, that's the whole idea of this, that online classes in the past have been very convenient for students, but there's some students that just don't like online classes. And I can respect that. So therefore, we give the ability to watch the class in person. Now, as far as labs go, there's a lab hour immediately after this class. All right. And it's so right across the hall in BU 102. You can certainly come to lab for that hour. You're not required to come for labs. You can also come to labs virtually by logging on to WebEx again. So if you get a WebEx account, and if you didn't watch, if you weren't in person watching the lecture, if you were watching it online on WebEx, there'll be a brief break while I log off the computer here and set it up in the other room. But then you can log on and ask me your questions. You can share your screen so you can show me exactly what's going on. And it's really a good way to work through issues. So you're welcome to show up in person for lab or show up via WebEx. And you do have the option of not attending lab at all. I'm just interested in you getting the work done. Therefore, if you don't want to show up for lab and you'd rather work on your own time, you're absolutely free to do that. Now, here's a little bonus for you, all right, as far as lab work goes. I have 4 in-person classes, okay? So I have a class Monday and Tuesday, 9 and 1, all right? So 10 to 11 on Monday and Tuesday, 2 to 3 on Monday and Tuesday, I'm in lab. You're welcome to come to any of those labs that you want. You're not restricted to only come to this lab. And that goes with all my students in any classes. I mean, my classes are fairly small, and therefore I can accommodate more than one class in lab. So I give you the option for that. All right, so you can come, and I'll show you on the syllabus where it shows it repeats the times and locations for the lab. Same rules apply. You can show up in person or you can log on via WebEx. Now, if you're not able to make it during office hours, let me know and we'll figure out something. All right, so you're not limited to just those hours. If you have a question about something and you cannot come to lab, or you're not free, or if it's between class sessions, let's say you're working on something Wednesday and you get stuck on a problem, you can contact me and we can arrange a time to meet up online, usually online. On some occasions I can meet in person, but usually online is more flexible for me. We can meet online and get the question resolved. All right. The only thing I say is, you can't expect to contact me, 9 in the morning for a 10 a.m. appointment. You have to give me some leeway. All right. When you give, if you want to see me if you want to make an appointment to see me outside of office hours, give me some times and days that you're available. So like if I were a student, I might say something like, hey, I'm stuck on this problem. I'm available tomorrow from 11 to 1 and after 4 p.m. And then I'm available Wednesday up to 2 o'clock. So just give like days and times that you're available, because I can usually find something that syncs up with your schedule. Right, I'm not going to read the syllabus to you. I know you're probably all disappointed in that. all right? Because I expect you to read the syllabus. But I am going to point out a couple things on the syllabus. Here's the repeating of times. I'm on campus these hours, 10 to 11, 10 to 11. This lab's in BU 102. My other labs are in BU 210, which is upstairs. And this is my WebEx link. The other thing that I ask is if you have a problem, zip up all your files into a zip file and attach it to your email message. So if you email me and you say, I can't get this heading to center, you know, I want it to center, but it's pushed over to the left. Don't just tell me that, send me the code, because it's virtually impossible for me to know exactly what's wrong without seeing the code. So zip up your code that you're working on and email it to me. And give a description of what the problem is. Don't simply say this web page doesn't look the way I think it should. Well, how do I know how you think it should look? You know, say and said something like, well, on this web page, the paragraph on the right is smaller than I expected, and the paragraph on the left is supposed to be in blue, but it's in black. You know, be very specific in what is wrong. And this will just help you get your answers much quicker and much better answers, because I'll be able to provide you answers without asking you, gee, please send the code in. What was wrong with this again? You know, and we'll be able to go through. All right. College policies, my approach, late work. I try to be flexible about late work. Why? Flexible doesn't mean anything goes. All right. So you have an assignment that's due next Wednesday. You know, let's say you're going out of town for Labor Day weekend and you're visiting family that you haven't seen in a while. So you're not going to really have time to work on the assignment. Email me, and you don't have to go in details. You don't have to spill your personal information, but just say something like, you know, because of personal reasons, I'm not able to get this assignment done by the due date. Can I have a day extension? Or if you're having problems with something, if I know you're having problems with something and I'm working with you, then I'm more than happy to give you the flexibility of turning it in late. All right. In other words, you're trying to do what the assignment says and it's not quite right. I'd rather you work with me to try to figure out what's wrong with it than turn in something that doesn't work. So when you turn something in, I want it to be something that's good, and I want it to be something that you know fulfills the requirements of the assignment. Now, again, sometimes there's confusion about the requirements, but generally, you should know when you turn it in that you're going to get full credit. You should know that the web page, web page has 3 links, Click on them. Do the links work? Yeah, you're fine. You should get full credit. But if your links don't work or something along those lines, then contact me. And if it's a little bit late, that's fine. I don't mind. Now, the only thing I will say is if you are habitually late, in other words, if it's not just a one-off thing that you went out of town or you got confused about something or something along those lines, and you're late every week, then we probably need to work out and figure out how you can get back on schedule. So use the schedule as a guideline of sort of testing how well you're doing in this class. If you're getting the assignments in on time and you're getting full credit, you're doing great. All right. If you're not getting full credit or your assignments are continually late, then we should probably talk about how we can improve that. Maybe you need to spend some more time working on the class. Maybe you need to ask questions more often. I have some students that seem to be reluctant to ask questions. I don't know if they've had bad experiences with professors in the past that they had a hard time when they asked a question, or what, or they have the attitude, well, I should figure this out by myself. That's a great attitude to have, but if you're stuck, you're stuck. you know, and you can stare at it as long as you want. You might not find the problem. It's my job to answer your questions. All right. So, you know, sending me an email in Canvas saying you have a question, I will rarely have an issue with that. I won't say never, because never say never, but I will rarely have an issue with you asking me a question on Canvas. Now, if you see me in public, don't pull out your laptop and start asking me about your web page and all that. But, you know, sending email on Canvas is fine. I have an AI policy. And this was a little tricky. I had to think about this for a while. AI is a great tool. Software developers and web developers should know how to use AI to get what they need. However, I don't want AI doing the work for you. So use AI as a reference. So for example, ask AI, how do you make a link green instead of blue? All right, the default color for a link is blue. You might ask, how do I make a link green instead of blue? That's fine. You're asking a specific question to try to understand the material that you don't understand right now. But for it to do the assignment for you, it's not acceptable use. And if I suspect that you've used AI to complete the assignment for you, then we'll talk and we'll figure out what to do next. Here's what you have. You have homework, portfolio that you turn in 2 parts, and a project that you turn in 2 parts. And here's our rough outline. Now, as I said before, this is a high flex class, which means that in addition to our lectures, there's going to be online materials for you to read. For example, each week is going to have a module associated with it, and there will be most likely a to-do this week. If you click on that, it will show you some tutorials for you to read. So this isn't, you know, this is expected that you go over this material. You know, this material is available for you instead of having a second lecture, all right, which many classes would have. So do go over this. I already see an error in this. Copied from last semester. In each module, there's going to be a video. Now, this will be the video from last semester. It'll be replaced by the video from this semester. And it'll be posted approximately, you know, within a couple hours of the end of class. So the class ends at 10 a.m. Figure by noon, the lecture will probably be posted if you want to rewatch it or whatever. All right. Are there any questions at this point? Okay. If there is a case of technical difficulties where I am not able to record the lecture, or if I am ill and I miss a class, I think there might be a day I have a doctor's appointment that I need to miss. I'll have to check my schedule. I'm not sure if that's this class or Tuesdays. But at any rate, if there's a day that I have to miss, or there's a snow day, or there's a holiday, I will post a lecture from a previous semester. They usually line up pretty well. You know, I've taught this class enough times that my week 1 lecture and week 2 lecture and week 3 lecture are pretty consistent. I'm not covering wildly different material, right? I will note that is from a different semester just in case something's confusing to you. All right, now let's get into sort of the guts of this course. All right, I have a web page and I picked ESPN's webpage, hoping that that's not controversial. I don't know, maybe people will argue the ranking here, but hopefully that'll be a fun debate, not a mean-spirited argument. Now, when you look at this page, we can identify stuff that you see, and you see different stuff on this page. This is not a web page that consists only of text. It doesn't look like simply a page of text that you'd find in a book. There's a bunch of stuff on it, all right? And the technical word for what a web page is comprised of is hypertext, all right? If you're a sci-fi fan and you think of hyperspace, that sort of means beyond space, you know. I don't know what it means really, they make it up, but you know, it means beyond regular space. Someone that's hyperactive is more active than normal. So it's above and beyond. So this is above and beyond text. What does that mean? Well, we have images. Here's an image. We have headings. This text looks different than this text. It's not just a block of text where everything looks the same. We have headings, and what's more, the headings give us some information. So we know that that's the headline for this article. We come to this page, we don't have to read through the article to know what it's about. We just look at this heading. Each little section has a heading of the person that they rank, and so on. Some of the text looks different and is blue. By default, typically blue text, and oftentimes blue text is underlined, are hyperlinks. This is really where hypertext has a lot of its power, is it's not just a single page, it links to everything else, or it can link to other things. So I can click on this and go to the NFL schedule. So this is just plain old text. This is not just plain old text. This is sort of souped up text. All right, this is text that can do more than that, because each little piece of text on the screen is a different kind of information that we're giving it. So we're viewing this web page through a web browser. And we could actually look at the web page that the web browser is viewing. By web browser, I mean Chrome, Microsoft Edge, Safari, Firefox, and so on. This is actually the code for this page. So this is the actual code, and you can look at it, you can see the stuff that we saw on the page. We can see it's bigger. We can see a link. This is a link. We can see paragraph of data. Somewhere down here, if we look hard enough, we can see probably that there's a heading. So a web page, a hypertext document, or an HTML document, hypertext markup language, the text is marked up. All right, what do we mean by marked up? Well, a lot of people that use textbooks like to highlight things in their textbooks, because it says, it gives you like a little bit more information. So for example, if the instructor says, this isn't going to be on the test, you might put a big X through it, saying, hey, that's not going to be on the test, I don't need to study that. If the teacher says, hey, this paragraph on page 12 is really important, you might highlight that or put a star in the margin. You're literally marking up your book. Well, how do we mark up the text in an HTML document, hypertext markup language, to tell the web browser what to make of a particular piece of text. We do that through what are called tags. So let me open up Notepad. We'll talk about other programs you can use, and if you use Mac, you can use TextEdit on a Mac. You just have to save the file a certain way. I'm going to pick Notepad because it's the very simplest text editor you can possibly have. We'll talk about others throughout the semester, but I'm going to start off talking about Notepad. And Notepad, we can type stuff in. If we type this in, I'm just going to type up all right. I can take this code in here and I'm going to save it as a web page. So if you're using Notepad, you got to go here and say save, save as or save. And over here where it says save as type, .txt, you need to change that to all files. And then you need to end the file name with .html. So I'm going to save it as CISS216.html. Let's just save it as CISS HTML. So what do I do again if I save the file in Notepad? I change save as type. I change that from where it says by default text document. I change that to say all files. And what file name do I give it? I give it the .html. All right. As the file name instead of .txt. I'm going to save it. And I'm just going to minimize this for now because I'm going to change this. And if I look somewhere on here, it saved it. Maybe. Oh, here it is. I can tell it's an HTML document. Why? Because this icon is the web browser, Chrome. I open it up in the web browser, and it's not much of a web page, right? I wanted this to be a header. I wanted this to be a plain old paragraph. I wanted this to be a header. I wanted this to be a plain old paragraph, where everything is just one line. Why is that? Because I didn't put any tags in there. I didn't put in my HTML code tags that say what each piece of text means. So that's what we're going to do now. We're going to add the tags to it. We go back into Notepad and notice that I only have one page. This is something that confuses some students. Some students will say about the text file or the HTML file. You only have one page. That is the .html file. You can open it up in Notepad or you can open it up in the web browser. By double clicking on it, you open it up in the web browser. If I want to open it up in Notepad, I right mouse it, say open with, and select notepad. Oh, there we go. And there it is again. Now, what I'm doing, by the way, is I'm not really making that text bigger. I'm just zooming it so you can see it. That's not going to make the text bigger on the web page. So I want this to be a headline. So I can put around this an H1 tag. Let's look at this. Let's look at this closely. I said this is an H1 tag. H1 / H1. For the most part, tags come in pairs. A starting tag and an ending tag. And the starting tag says where a particular element begins, and the ending tag says where that particular element ends. So in this case, here's where the header starts, here's where the header ends. Things like this are not going to be displayed on the browser page. The browser understands them as being tags and will not display them. It will display the results of that text and tag. So what this tells the browser is that this is not just any old text, it's a heading. Therefore, treat it like a heading. All right. Now, H1 doesn't mean it's the first heading on the page. H1 means it's a top level heading. Think of an outline. In an outline, you have sort of the top level, your reports about Shakespeare. That might be your top level. Then underneath that, maybe you have Hamlet, Romeo and Juliet, Macbeth. Those are subcategories underneath the main category. Those would be H2 tags. So in this case, CISS216 is not sort of a subtopic under CISS216. It's its own topic. So I will also make this an H1 tag. All right, let's just do this. By the way, I'm starting off slowly. This is not a complete web page. This is a fragment of a web page. We'll look at a complete web page before the end of class. So I'm going to go and save this. And then I'm going to view it in the browser. All right, so now we got, this is a headline, this is a headline. Cool. What do you think we're going to get if I forget an ending tag? If we forget an ending tag, let's see what happens. Think of what you think it's going to do. Saved it. I'm going to hit refresh. Then it makes all that text a headline. Because we told it that the headline starts here, but we never said where the headline ends. So it doesn't know. So it makes everything a headline. So this says turn on headline mode. This says turn off headline mode. Now, if you just have plain text, we don't leave it as plain text. We typically put it in a paragraph tag. Right? Now, this isn't going to make it look well, it's going to make it look different than this, but it's going to go back to the way it looked like a minute ago. So notice I'm saving it in Notepad. I refresh it and see it in that. Okay. Now, it doesn't matter how many spaces I put here. I could do that if I wanted to. I don't know why I'd want to, but I could do that. And it's still going to just read it as a solid paragraph. These blank spaces are called white space. Even if you put a tab in, it's called white space because there's nothing there. All right. And white space is turned into a single space when the browser reads it. And that might sound a little weird now, but is actually very useful. And we'll probably see some situations where it's advantageous to do that. All right, so this is your introduction to tags. Let's look at a more extensive web page. And this example is on Canvas. Close out of this. By the way, I download the zip file. You always have to extract the zip file in order to work with it. Sometimes I have students like have problems with their web pages because they're trying to open it up within the zip file. And it actually allows you to do that. It just doesn't work very well. So I'll extract it. Here's a folder. Now I can open this up. Now remember, I can open up this two ways. I can open it up in the browser, which means when it's put on the internet and people visit this page, that's what it's going to look like to them. So that's how the browser views this page. I can also open it up in Notepad. And how do I do that? I right mouse, open with Notepad. Couple years old. All right, so notice this part looks about the same as we had before. It has H1s and paragraphs and so on. To make it a complete web page, we need some more stuff in it. Now, I'm going to tell you what should be on every web page. I'm going to tell you the tags that should be on every web page. And I'm going to, we'll go over them and then we'll talk about this a little bit more. First of all, the top of each page there should be what is called a doc type. Doc type HTML. It looks like this. This kind of looks like a tag, but it really isn't. It's called a declaration. It's a little bit different than a tag. So it should look exactly like this. Every single one of your web pages should look like that. It should start with that line. Then you have an HTML tag. That's another way of saying, hey, here's my web page. My web page is everything between the start HTML tag and my ending HTML tag. And I'm giving information, by the way, the language of this web page is English. That might be useful if you're doing searches and you want, a web developer in France might want information about HTML, but they might want only pages in French, for example. This language will help them identify, will help the Google identify that it's in French. This, by the way, is part of the HTML tag. It's called an attribute. And we'll talk more about attributes later. But it should look like this and this, start and end. Each HTML document should have a head and a body. This is the stuff in the head. This is the stuff in the body. Notice how it's indented, and that's something that's very important. All right? The web browser doesn't care about how you indent stuff, but humans that will work on this web page do care about how you indent stuff because it makes it more readable. At a glance, I can see this is the head section. Here's everything in the head section. Everything could literally be on one line without any line breaks at all. And the browser would understand it. But that would be very difficult for a human to read. So I indent to show containment. In other words, the HTML document contains all this stuff. So all that stuff is indented within the HTML document, or nested in the HTML document. This stuff is nested inside a head. This stuff is nested inside the body. Now, to be properly nested, if a tag starts within a tag, it also needs to end within that tag. So this is not correct, because the title starts inside the head, but doesn't end inside the head. Now, here's the interesting thing. Some mistakes, the browser figures out what to do anyhow. So if you don't follow the rules of HTML exactly, sometimes the browser figures it out and displays it the way that you want to. Sometimes one browser will figure it out, but a different type of browser might not be able to figure it out. Or other problems can occur when you don't follow the rules of HTML. Therefore, we're going to want to follow the rules of HTML, and we're going to want things properly nested. So the head is information about the page. This doesn't appear on the page. The title appears on the tab. So if I look at this, the title is first example. That's where it appears. First example. It appears on the tab. It doesn't appear anywhere on the web page. Why? Because it's not part of the body. The body is what appears on the web page. The head is information about the page. So for now, the only thing we're going to put in the head of a page is the title. Body, that's where you have the actual bulk of the web page. And here's where we have the H1s, paragraph, H1. Each H1 sort of represents a main topic. Main topic is welcoming to fall semester. Main topic is information about Professor Zeller's. Now notice this is an H2. H2 is a subtopic of Professor Zeller's. Therefore, we don't use an H1, we use an H2. And the browser will make the H2 a little bit smaller so that we can see, yeah, that's sort of Monday schedule and Tuesday schedule is underneath Professor Zeller's. So H1 and H2 doesn't mean like the first or the second or the third or fourth. It means the level of the heading. Is it a main topic or is it a subtopic underneath that? Or is it a subtopic underneath that? We actually have 6 levels of headings, H1 through H6. Doesn't mean you can only have 6 headings. It means that you can only take it down 6 levels. And if you need to go more than 6 levels, you probably have too complicated of a web page. You should probably break it down into sections or separate web pages. So your web page is going to look like this. You're always going to have this. You're always going to have this. You're always going to have the head. And that head will always contain a title. You're always going to have a body, and that body is going to contain the bulk of your page. So what you need to do for your first assignment is research some topics. Research these topics, HTML, HTML5, and CSS. And create a web page as an article you write about each of the topics. Summarize what you have learned. Each article should contain 1 written paragraph. Use the tags covered in chapter 1. This was back when we had a book. All right. So you're going to look up HTML. And you're going to create a section for HTML. So what are you probably going to have? You'll probably have an H1 for HTML. Then you're going to research HTML. You're going to go look online for information about HTML, what it is, when it started, that kind of stuff. And you'll create a paragraph that has that. And you'll do that for the other topics. So when you're done, you'll have 3 sections of your page that each have information about one of the technologies that I've listed there. Do we have any questions? All right, that's all I have for today. We will see you in lab. We do not meet next week because of Labor Day. I will post the lecture, though, from previous semesters so that you can watch that. All right, we'll see you in lab. Question?
To be sure of what we're researching, what does the CSS stand for?
Well, I'm gonna let you figure it out. Yeah, it'll be the joy of discovery. Anything else? Yes.
Before I go, I don't think I'm enrolled in the Canvas course for this course. I don't have that on my Canvas right now.
When did you enroll?
I enrolled for the summer semester last year, or this year, sorry.
Did you finish the orientation thing on there? Because I just had to do it. And then
Oh, yeah.
I know I have for other classes, yeah. I don't know if I say.
like the green one. It's called, let me see.
Yeah, if you don't show up, try the orientation.
The LCC Canvas Student Orientation.
Yeah, I know I had to do that for my course last.
I have to do it again this year because I was confused why mine wasn't working, and then it told me my